Hi, this is Becky with Icing on Top Becky's Cakes, and today we're going to make caramel buttercream and caramel filling, which is so yummy. So we're going to start with the butter. We're going to chop it up. It's 1 cup of butter and 2 cups of the brown sugar we're going to put in there, and half a cup of milk. And then we're going to stir this around on a medium-low heat until all the butter gets melted and the brown sugar gets dissolved. So it's going to take a little bit for all that to happen. So we're just going to stir and then wait till it dissolves. Now this is going to be the caramel sauce for our buttercream. Now if we want it also for our filling, what we do is we're going to do the exact same thing in a separate pan. And the reason I don't just double it up is because this way you make sure you have the exact measurements that you need for the buttercream frosting, and you don't have a little too much or a little too little. So exact same thing in the separate pan. We're just gonna double up the brown sugar, butter, milk, put that in a separate pan, do this exact same thing. And that's only if you want the filling as well. Otherwise, this is all you need for the buttercream frosting. And but the filling's super yummy. I also use it to drizzle some on top, so I definitely recommend doubling it up and using the other pan for the filling. And anyway, here we go. We are melting this butter and it's starting to get nice and creamy. Once it's completely dissolved, we can stop with the stirring, and then we're going to turn it to medium, and we're just going to let it be. No more stirring because we want it to become a nice thick caramel. We're going to turn it down to medium and let it be, and we're going to let it continue going until it bubbles like this. When you start to see it boil like this, we're going to let it boil for a little bit until we get a nice rich caramel color. That'll thicken it. So we're going to let it go for a couple minutes until we see all the boiling all over it. Yeah, so once it starts to look like this, and you can tell it's darker in color and it's thicker, that's been a couple minutes now, so that's about the time when we're going to want to take it off. And we're going to let this completely cool to room temperature. So that's going to take quite some time. It's going to take a few hours. So that's the part of this that is time consuming. A lot of times I'll just make the caramel the day before and then just let it cover it well, let it sit at room temperature overnight. Just and then it'll be ready first thing in the morning to make the buttercream. So yeah, if you make the caramel the night before, and especially like if you're using it as filling as well, you want it to all be room temperature. So otherwise you're gonna have to wait a couple hours and make sure that it's completely at room temperature before we start making the buttercream or using it as a filling, because your buttercream will be too thin if it is even slightly warm. Okay, so now that it's completely cooled, we want to mix it well before adding our other ingredients, because it kind of separates after it cools, so you want to really give it a good mixing. You can mix it with, if it's for the filling, you just hand mix it if you want with a spoon, but since we're making this with buttercream, we're gonna mix this on low for a few minutes first to make sure it is well mixed in and nice and smooth before we add our other ingredients like the powdered sugar and the salt, and then later on a tablespoon of milk. Okay, so now it's looking like some nice caramel, so it's all set. We can stop that and we can go ahead and add our powdered sugar. Now we want 5.5 cups of powdered sugar, and I like to use pure cane sugar because it really gets the smoothest and doesn't have that little bit of grainy stuff in it that other powdered sugars will have that are made with beet. Basically, if it doesn't say pure cane on the front of your powdered sugar, it's probably made with beet sugar and it's not going to be as smooth. Then I'm going to go ahead and add my 2 teaspoons of salt, and the 1 tablespoon of milk we will add later after we mix this. First, we're going to mix it on low for a while, about 5 minutes. Now we're going to want to scrape the side and then mix it a little longer, and that's to make sure that any powdered sugar that gets stuck to the side, we want to make sure it's well mixed in. Okay, now so that our buttercream is super smooth, we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of milk, and then we're gonna mix it on low for about 5 more minutes, and then our buttercream will be ready to go. And now when our buttercream is done, it'll be ready to either smooth on cake, or you can pipe it onto a cupcake. And I also like piping them onto mini cupcakes. And then I add a little bit of that drizzle, the caramel drizzle. That's from the caramel filling that we set aside. That makes an amazing drizzle as well. And if you're gonna put it in a regular cake, make sure to leave a dam of frosting all around the outside of the cake before you put the filling in, because the filling is going to be a lot softer. So you're going to have that dam in place so it doesn't all ooze out. And so if you're filling it into cupcakes, I just use an apple core, take out the middle of the cupcake about 3/4 of the way down. And then I use a piping bag, or really even a baggie with the little tip cut off the bag, and then you can squeeze it right into all your cupcakes. So then you'll have a nice caramel surprise in the middle for anyone who loves caramel, which I absolutely love caramel. And then you just pipe right over the top of that. And it also makes the cupcakes more moist, so I love that idea too. Okay, so when it looks like this, our caramel buttercream is done and it's ready to be smoothed on a cake and piped on some cupcakes. Brownie cupcakes today and a brownie cake. So we've already cut the hole in the brownie, we filled it with the caramel, and now I'm going to use a 1M tip. I'm going to start in the middle and right over the top of it. Give yourself a good gap, don't press in, and just let it come out as you put pressure on the bag. And there is our little rosette. Just start in the middle, go around. Let's drizzle some caramel on top, put some coarse sea salt, and there it is. And here's our other double brownies cake. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to my channel. And so, actually, this is actually a double layer brownie.